that we don't do innovation just for the sake of doing innovation. We have realized that innovation is a very integral and inherent part of the delivery that we promise. The promise that we make to our customers is something that can only be done on the basis of that. And we found that time and time again. When we find newer ways of doing things, that's when we realize that we actually solve some very, very real world problems for them, and whatever does happen happens for the best. And this is possibly one of the favorite lines that I have inherited from my father, and I like to use myself.
Hello everybody, welcome to Entrepreneurship Simplified. And this show is going to introduce you to those brilliant ideas and the biggest entrepreneurs who will help you to literally decode entrepreneurship to its roots. When I say the real life challenges, failures and successes, and then how they actually manage the journey of their challenges. And so that you can actually avoid all these mistakes in your journey to realize your dream of becoming an entrepreneur much faster. So this show is being done in association with Young Indians. Young Indians is a movement for Indian youth to converge, lead, co-create and influence India's future. As an integral part of Confederation of Indian Industry, a non-government and not-for-profit, industry-led and industry-managed organization playing a proactive role in India's development process. And if you want to take part of India's growth, YI is a place to be. And today's guest is an inspirational entrepreneur. She is a director and chief financial officer of PTC Industries Limited, a manufacturer of critical and supercritical cast metal components. PTC Industries Limited was listed as one of the 16 hidden gems of the country by Forbes India magazine. Smita is a founding member of ESOFT Technologies Limited, a software development and business process consultancy company with offices in New York, Mumbai, and Lucknow. She is also a partner in S. Weiss & Co., which has a long and impressive history of accounting and consulting excellence. She was also a winner of 2017 Women Achiever Awards by LMA in the corporate category. She was also recognized as Niti Aayog as one of the top 60 women entrepreneurs in the country, and at their Women Transforming India Awards 2018. Help me to welcome Smita Agarwal, Director and CFO of PTC Industries Limited. Hi Smita, how are you doing?
Hi Rajesh, thank you so much for that very kind introduction. Thank you.
And first of all, I want to say a big thank you for being part of this show. And this is a very, very non-traditional question, but I just want to ask, right? Being a chartered accountant and moving into an entrepreneurial journey, which is a very rare thing to get. Can you please share what kind of background you had to really, come through this journey?
Sure, Rajesh. It's really funny that you asked me this question. I have a very standard reply for it. And a lot of choices in my life have been sort of made for me and have happened by default. And the point in this is that my family is actually, has a long-standing history of professionals. So my grandfather was actually one of the very first registered accountants, as they were called in the pre-independence era. And he was one of the founding members of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, and also one of he was actually the third president of the institute. So my family just had really strong tradition of chartered accountants and people in the profession. My father is a chartered accountant, and then I also kind of defaulted into the profession. But as time went by, I think I chose the man. And because of choosing the man that I chose, the entrepreneurial journey chose me. So when I moved from Delhi to Lucknow, my husband's family actually has a long established business which was started by my husband's father in 1963. And it so happened that, within the course of almost a year or two after being in Lucknow, I started taking part in the business and got slowly involved in all its activities, primarily from the finance and the administration kind of aspects, but slowly more and more entrenched in the business, and that's how the journey really started. So, like I said, it's kind of default into that. Yes.
I don't see anything in default. I don't know. Do you believe in spirituality, by the way?
Yes, very strongly. I think you can see the painting behind me. And one of the things in our factory actually is that we have a lot of these symbols of history or ancient mythology, and a lot of symbols of spirituality. So we do strongly believe in that. And I really like the idea of mixing all our innovation and technological principles along with of the tradition and the roots that we carry within us. So yes, I
Wow,
do.
this is really interesting. I mean, if not for COVID, probably I would have, come and did the whole interview in person. I would really love to see it, because going forward, I believe in spirituality only 5 years back. Before that, I used to say, man, this is crazy. I mean, I don't see what I don't see, I don't believe. But I mean, going through the journey, I can see that why I'm seeing so many achievements I've seen in different innovations and all. This is a very, very rare combination. But where did you get this, understanding of, connecting roots to this, the business? Because most of the time I see if somebody is in innovation, they're least bothered about spirituality. But if somebody is in spirituality, they kind of say that, well, anyway, things will fall in place. How did you actually manage to join these two?
So one of the very strong mantras that I believe in, and also my husband does believe in, is that things do work out. There is whatever does happens for the best. And this is possibly one of the favorite lines that I have inherited from my father, and I like to use myself at any point of time. And I think, with experience, as you go through life, you realize that how true it is. Sometimes, as people say, you do not really understand the higher purpose of why things are happening. So, at that instant, sometimes you cannot understand why this particular incident happened, or why things are not happening the way you want them to be. But I think always in hindsight, and always when you look back upon your life, you realize the path that you took actually brought you to the place that you are at today. And now in hindsight, this is the best way for it to have happened. And we've seen that a lot of times in our entrepreneurial journey also. I mean, just an example that I can give to you is something that stood out very strongly for us, is that I think about 15 odd years ago, 14 to 15 odd years ago. So we are a small company based out of Lucknow, and we are very, very strongly committed to innovation and technology. And like I said earlier, it's a company which was started in 1963. So it's a very long history even when we joined it. But at that time, there were, certain challenges with the business. And as a part of the growth that we envisioned for the business, we were actually looking to, acquire a certain facilities, a unit, some manufacturing capabilities in Nagpur. And at that time, it was not a very big acquisition by the scale of things. And I think we spent almost a year vying for it, trying to raise funds, trying to get that acquisition to complete. And it did not work out for us, at that time. It was very difficult because we were not able to raise just a few crores that were needed at that time to get that business. And today, in retrospect, I feel that if we had actually managed to do that and accomplished that acquisition, our journey would have gone completely different, because we would have been in a completely different kind of industry, different products. And it was so funny that we stayed back in Lucknow, and we actually didn't, get that opportunity. And now we are in a completely different sphere of business, and so it's totally different from what we had thought we would have.
Wow. I mean, it is so interesting to really kind of understand these facts, because see, I mean, I tell you what, in general, I'm really talking about youth, right? At this moment, anything, small thing goes wrong, these kids are really kind of, man, why is this, happening to me? And then they go into the kind of distress, and including entrepreneurs. Majority of the entrepreneurs, when they start the startups, they're kind of going into the drain only because of one of the major reasons is fight. And fight is coming through majority ego. They said, hey, it's my idea, and it's my idea, right? And instead of saying that, people have come together definitely for one higher purpose. So I want to ask this question: how this younger generation should approach, one, either we can talk it as an higher purpose, maybe, or we can call it as spirituality. what is your suggestion in, kind of when somebody is starting their journey, entrepreneurial journey?
I think we are living in these times, right? How ages change and how with every decade, the speed at which things happen and the speed at which the external environment changing has become really, really incredible. I mean, we all know those examples, and now I think every 5 years the world reinvents itself.
Yeah.
And we also know that today is in some ways the age of instant gratification. So there is no time lag that a younger generation expects that should be there between the time that they put in the effort and the time that the rewards start coming to them. And I think it's fair. It's not unreasonable for them also, because this is the examples that you see around you, and you see people who are becoming billionaires at in their early 20s, and sometimes dropping out of college and suddenly having the next big idea and starting stuff. So that is there. But I think in the long run, we have always seen that a little patience, a little faith in your own capabilities always counts for more. So just I don't know if I can use this. There is a Doha by Kabir, and do I have your permission to recite it in Hindi? Because
Yes.
So this is something that we love. Say this is something that I think means a lot for us, and it's a Doha which says Kabir ka Doha hai, and it says "Dheere dheere o mana, dheere sab kuch hoye." So it means slowly. Just take it slowly. Oh, my heart, my brain, everything happens slowly. Mali siche 100 ghada means the gardener will actually empty 100 pots. But ritu aaye phal hoye, so that even although the mali or the gardener will tend to the plant or the tree for a long period of time, the only time it bears fruit is when the spring comes. It's only when the ritu is right, and that is the time when the fruits will come out. So you have to go through that process of tending to the plant, giving it all it needs, and have that patience and faith to believe that when the time is right, that time it will bear fruit, and that fruit will be incredible. So this is something that we've seen personally in our lives also, and I think apart from all the exigencies that this time brings us, it's also important to have this little bit of stability and patience in your attitude.
Wow. I mean, this is one of the best representation of spirituality to the reality, right? I believed in spirituality, as I said, just a few years back. Till then, I was a very, very highly logical guy. I used to think, I see, and I believe. But the way that you put up, a plant's growth and the kind of effort the Mali gives to the real fruit, I think that is a reality. And many times I've seen the billionaires coming out overnight, but then there was, all the billionaires says that, right? There is more than 10, 20, 15 years of effort, which turned out to be an overnight success. So I think the young generation, as you said, must really look into the kind of journey that they put in the 10 years journey, and then start accepting the fact that, like that Rutu, wow, I totally love that. The Rutu has to come in, and, it takes its time. But, I want to ask this, how, when you're in that kind of level of spirituality, that was my previous belief. If you're too much into spirituality, you will say you accept everything, that you don't focus so much on something new. But you seem to have a combination of both spirituality as well as innovation. What triggers that innovation within you? Why you want to go into innovation when you think something can happen naturally?
So I'm actually going to just respond to something that you said earlier, that you a few years back believed only in logic and not in spirituality. And I personally feel that there is a lot of logic in spirituality also. I'm sure we can do a completely different series around that, not discussing entrepreneurship, but discussing that. But really, honestly, I think the whole commitment to innovation is something that has been a part of the DNA of our company right from the very beginning. And my husband's father, actually, when he started the company, the vision of this company was to do something which was not at that time thought even possible for a company in India to even dream of. So when we started in 1963, we're basically in the business of making metal components, and he wanted to export high alloy components from a country like India. And India was pretty much blacklisted for all critical parts and components at that time in the 1960s. So just to think that we could export something which is so critical and so high quality was not a very, very reasonable dream to have in those times. But over the period, as time elapsed, there's a lot of hard work, of course, that went into it. But the mindset has always been very, very true and committed towards innovating. And fortunate, I'm saying that we are really fortunate that even today, our commitment to that remains very steadfast. And we have managed to deliver on a lot of those things. We have become a kind of a symbol, if I can use that word, for the kind of innovation and technology that is possible in India. And, I think the time is also right now, because the world is changed its mindset towards India and the capability of Indian companies, and understanding that possibly in the future, the most remarkable kind of innovations and technology, India is going to be definitely a seeding place for that.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, see, this we can really go deep into spirituality. But what really caught my attention is this should be very simply spoken, because just because spirituality was not spoken very commonly, especially when I've seen in my circle, being an entrepreneur, and so many entrepreneurs never want to talk about spirituality. But I've seen the kind of tremendous difference since I did it, right? I mean, just to give you an idea, I did meditation at minus 30 degrees. I cannot think anything logic about it. But if that, I understood what I totally love about what you said is marriage between the innovation and making sure the spirituality. You give your best and then leave the rest. So the best has to happen, right? That thinking can make a huge difference, especially in the early part of the entrepreneurial journey, in my opinion. I mean, what do you think about it? If there is this kind of an approach can be inculcated in young entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest parts of the entrepreneurial journey, and an entrepreneur is always identified and associated with the risk-taking capability. That is one of the earliest factors. And when I joined, I, being a chartered accountant, come completely from the other end, because the chartered accountant is expected to be conservative and very, very cautious about the approach. And then to sort of see that, I could really see it very clearly, how the risk-taking capability actually develops in an entrepreneur, and how he has that faith in all the leaps that he takes. And that is something that is incredible. And when you support that with an internal belief, let's not even call it spirituality, it's just some sort of faith that you have in your own capabilities, and the fact that anything that you do with a good intention will always bring out the right result. And then finally, like I said, believing that whatever the result has come out, maybe at this time may not seem perfect to you, but in hindsight will always tell you that it's all part of a big puzzle, which is slowly falling into place as your life goes on. So all the steps that we have taken, I think, have slowly led us to a place where the entrepreneurial journey itself has become satisfying. And I think for every entrepreneur, the whole experience of going through it, developing, learning, experimenting, then seeing various outcomes is perhaps a very, very rewarding experience, more so than the actual outcomes of their effort.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, it's one thing which I think entrepreneurs should really focus upon, especially if they want to have a fulfilling journey. But going a little bit beyond the spirituality, I just want to ask, one of the most common notion which most of the people think is being an entrepreneur is a kind of a punishment where you have no family life, especially. I mean, I just want to ask, now you have two kids, right? Satvik and
Soham.
Soham, yeah.
Soham.
So,
yes.
Yeah. How do you manage your time between your journey at the office because I know the kind of pressure you will have at your stage, and having that beautiful motherly time with your kids. How do you manage this?
I think I always call this a kind of an expertise at juggling responsibilities. So it's not necessarily true that all the time you're giving the first priority to your work or to your other passions. And the times based on the times, your priorities keep changing. So depending on what needs you most at that point of time. So there are times, I think, when I feel that it is much more important to tend to the responsibilities towards my children. And I'm very fortunate that they are also mature and they understand this particular the changing priorities kind of a thing. So they do understand that there are certain times when I do not have enough time or enough attention that I can spare for them. But I also know that they have the faith and confidence that when they need me, I am there, and I am always, hopefully capable of putting in whatever it is that they need at that point of time. And I've seen the same with them. I think it's not just a one-way street. I've seen that the children also support you in many, many ways. And that is actually sometimes one of the core strengths that you have as a business leader or as an entrepreneur.
So, simply manage the time, make sure to set up the priorities based on the situation is the answer. I love that. I totally love that. And when you're talking about the innovations, right, how it helped in terms of, business efficiency and also the, because innovation means cost. That's how it happens. You need to invest in the beginning to reap the benefits later. So how has been the innovation journey? Because I've seen so many awards for PTC under your guidance.
So I think one of the very basic concepts that we hold very strong at, don't talk about cost. We only talk about value. So everything that we do has a certain value that is attached to it. And if we feel that the value is worthwhile, then a cost is not something that we kind of think about. And this is similar to the attitude that our customers take. So again, of course, there has been a basic commitment to innovation, and that commitment is stronger than the evaluation of any inputs or any cost that goes into it. The other thing is that the times that we have actually chosen innovation over any other decision have actually been times where it was almost a do or die kind of a situation. So just to again give you a context on that, about almost 20 years ago, when we joined the business, and there was a certain path that the company was going towards. It was also the times, if you remember, when China was taking a very strong hold on manufacturing, and it sort of became almost the factory of the world, and all manufacturing was shifting primarily from the West to China. And a lot of the business that we also had actually moved to China because of the mass production and all these capabilities that it offered. And at that time, it was critical for us to choose something where our capabilities spoke stronger than anything else. And then because we picked to venture and to invest into things which actually required an extraordinary capability in terms of the quality, the integrity, the efficiency of the parts that we were actually manufacturing, we basically eliminated any sort of threat that we have from China. Because the kind of business that we were doing was not something that was mass production based, it was not a volumes business, and it was very, very highly dependent on the kind of technology that we were working on. And that was one of the biggest decisions that we took as an entrepreneur for the company. And that is, of course, like I'm referring, the path that the company went on. Apart from that, of course, there is a strong innovation mindset that sits in the DNA of everybody who works in the company. So it's not just innovation that we do in terms of our products and our processes, but also very basic level automation. Of course, we have the largest industrial robot in the world. So a huge amount of automation, robotics in the company because they service the kind of market that we cater to. where the criticality is so high. So if you could imagine, initially, even if we are supplying parts to something like an oil rig or something, the failure of one such part has such a huge expense, a huge cost. If one of your parts is actually part of a space vehicle, and any of those parts fails, the possibility of failure is such a drastic possibility which cannot be entertained at all, that the commitment that this part will actually be capable of performing as it is expected is very, very high. And because of that, there has to be, the only path that you can take in order to ensure that those requirements are met is by ensuring that the best of everything is used. And we've used that even otherwise in all our small day-to-day activities in terms of the various kind of automation that we've brought in to the company. And that's what keeps us alive. And actually, I think that's what keeps us motivated, because there's a good kick that we get out also of the fact that we do things in a slightly different manner. And it comes out of this.
I totally love your perspective. I mean, I was always thinking innovation is as an investment, but as such, you used as a motivation to really kind of eliminate one of the business threat from, a huge country like China. Kudos to you. And I can very clearly see the DNA in everything that you speak. And I can very clearly understand about oil and gas industry, because I mean, I have experience of more than 13 years in the industry. I've seen if a small flange is gone, I mean, I used titanium as well. And as you said, around 10 years back, if a titanium was there, we were pretty much never looking into India, just because, again, if any small flange is gone, $300 million platform is totally, at a risk. So I can totally relate to it, but the innovation is literally heard in everything that you speak. Now, I just want to ask, where this innovation is kind of, I mean, I have understood you're using robotics already. You're really kind of putting in so much of effort in taking it to the most critical industries that you're dealing with, like space and all. Where are you actually heading in terms of global business?
So, one thing I would say just before I answer that question is the fact that we don't do innovation just for the sake of doing innovation. We've realized that innovation is a very integral and inherent part of the delivery that we promise. The promise that we make to our customers is something that can only be done on the basis of that. And we found that time and time again. When we find newer ways of doing things, that's when we realize that we actually solve some very, very real world problems for them. And we've experienced that, with customers, even like Rolls-Royce, for example, where their particular marine division was suffering really badly. And because of the innovation that we did on their parts, they actually reduced about 33% of their cost, which suddenly made that business viable and things like that. So they, it has its own, very strong tie-ins with what you're actually trying to deliver. In terms of the growth and in terms of the plans, of course, we are already, we've been a very largely export-focused company. So we've, for the past 15 to 20 years, over 75 to 80% of our supplies have always been, exported. And that has been our primary market for the longest time. But now, as we are looking towards getting more and more into the defense and aerospace industry, actually India is opening up as a market for us. And we are sort of looking at also supplying for the Indian needs. And again, one of very strong principles that we hold, and again, I think this is again reference back to belief, faith, and the spirituality, that when you move in that direction, things also happen in that manner for you. This is the time when India is opening up, when there is such a strong focus on things like Make in India, Atmanirbhar Bharat. And this is the time that we've also been able to develop that capability to actually address a very important need that the country has now, there's a call to action to make local, to be able to create self-reliance in a lot of these core manufacturing sectors. And fortunately for us, we are positioned at the right place at the right time.
Brilliant. I mean, this is the best example. Solve customer problems, you will always, stand out. I mean, making another customer's business again surviving is really something huge, I would say. And I can see the part of the innovation. And I just want to ask, right, if there is one thing no entrepreneur should miss in their journey before they start, what could that be, right?
I know I could give a lot of different answers, but in this one, I'm actually going to say the people. I think the people that you take along, the people that actually support you in your entrepreneurial journey, and I'm referring even more to all the people who believe in the entrepreneurial dreams that you have, the challenges, the fact that you think that you can be this company or this organization that can actually achieve all of these things, and those people who've stuck on with you, who've stayed with you. PTC is a more than 56, 57-year-old company, and there are people who've been with us generations. Their children are now working with us. I think those are the people that you should never forget about. You always remember you could not have walked this journey alone. You could not have achieved what you achieved alone. And it's because of all these people who also place their belief in you that you are there where you are today as an entrepreneur. And I think that's something that I would ask everybody as an entrepreneur to think about. Whether you start with a small team or a big one, those people are actually the pulse and the core of your organization.
They say company is nothing but a paper, right? It is all about building with people. So I totally agree with that. And I mean, this is exactly the message that we get from Smita. Number one, believe in yourself. I mean, be it spiritual or not, it's up to you, but believe in yourself. Marriage with innovation, and make sure to have the faith in people, or have the right team in yourself, so that an organization of 56 years has generations of next generation coming in the organization. And these are the three important things for you to really take as an important aspect of your entrepreneurial journey. And I need to just bring this very, very interesting conversation to an end. If you have not subscribed yet, make sure to subscribe, and also go through all the episodes where most of the entrepreneurs are sharing their journey. And I would say, Smita, thank you so much for again spending this good time with us and sharing your personal and entrepreneurial journey.
Just want to say thank you so much, Rajesh, and I want to congratulate you and the entire team of the Amravati chapter. I think just want to say that as young Indians, one of the very strong things as nation, as part of our nation building activities that we want to do is to help more and more people think about the possibilities of being an entrepreneur. And this that you are doing is absolutely wonderful. I think if we can inspire even one more person to take up this entrepreneurial journey, I think we would count ourselves as successful. So big congratulations and thank you so much.
Thank you. I mean, we know, right, why our slogan is we can and we will, and we will take the entire nation with us, and we grow together. I say thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in, and next week you will meet another amazing entrepreneur. Until then, I would say thank you, and we say bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.